I'm really excited to have episode 4, and a dear friend, longtime friend, Lizzy Dixon, is joining me on this episode. And man, she is a dynamite storyteller. She's had quite the career with short stories and films, which she'll get into a little bit. And we met in our early 20s in Scotland. We were both Mormon missionaries, and just one of those people that you connect with and instant friends. And it was such a formative time of life. And Lizzie's been on a really cool journey, and she gets into some of her adventures during COVID and navigating stability and instability and living out of a camper van with her kids and exploring Europe and what that was like and what it's like to let go and change your own story and narrative, and hearing some of the things that she's excited about on the horizon. And hopefully this is just a little snippet of some cool things from her and some things that she has upcoming. Lots of laughter in this one, and excited to share it with y'all. And without further ado, here's my conversation with Lizzy.
Fine.
You got it. That was good. That was a good hair flip for those that like didn't see it. I can't do that anymore. So it's just like,
Don't start me off like when I'm already unintelligible to begin with.
you were great. Well, and you've had like a full day of like work and life, right? Because it's like evening there or like late
No,
afternoon.
it's afternoon. It's
Okay.
so it's
Okay.
lunch.
It's not as bad as I anticipated. So terrible at time and numbers. And this is also why I decided to talk instead of write anything down. So
Let's
yeah, exactly right.
wing it.
Yeah. Yeah. And some of us are comfortable with winging it and some of us aren't. And so we were just laughing about this podcast, and Lizzy, you gave me such a gift of like an arc. Like I am more prepared for this podcast due to who you are as a friend and a human than I have been for any other thing. And so what a gift. What a gift that I promise you, continue to use no matter how this goes. Cause I'm like, oh, well, if this is the way for stories to happen, then like, wow, like
It's the
what are we
universal
doing?
language of storytelling, though, isn't it? You begin, a middle, and end. Start somewhere, go through your journey, full arc, end somewhere.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the mechanics of it. Yeah, yeah.
It's true. Tale as old as time, as Disney might say, And so I'm with you. It's so funny though, because I do consider myself like a storyteller in some ways, but it's so unstructured. Like I don't have to put the structure or the rigor that you have to like in your day job and all those things. And so when I'm like in front of a room or, like wherever the setting is, it's one of those things where like I just don't think about it. And so there's like probably overconfidence for sure in my ability to like connect some of
You
the
shouldn't.
dots.
No, you shouldn't think about it. Storytelling is as old as time. Literally, it is a tale of old as time, and that's how we communicated and passed around information and history and folklore and things. We sat around campfires originally, passing on our ancestors' stories, and so it is how human people process, like how human people opposed to other people.
Yeah. As opposed to us. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
It's how we process life and how we relate and how we, you know, how we learn, I suppose, or are patient with ourselves. It is just, I think it is part of the human language is storytelling. It's got to be involved. This is what podcasting is. It's the same thing. It's just not sitting around a campfire anymore. It's just
Oh, I have seen there's one guy where he records around a campfire, and I'm just like, I want to be your friend and I want to steal your idea because there is something about campfire conversations
there is, yeah.
and camping in general where you just get bored. And
Yeah.
so you can't talk about the weather for, hours into the night.
My God,
And
the Brit, that's our one conversation for football.
Well, also, there's only like one type of weather out there. It's like, oh, rain again today. Here we are. Cheerio.
We've had sunniest spring actually since records began, apparently. Although they say since records began every year with something now. But we've had our sunniest spring, so everyone is a little bit more chipper at the moment.
Oh my gosh. I
And
like
quite
that.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
And
fun. Right, but it's not just the campfire, is it? It's all the other ingredients. It's the stars, the nature, the ground beneath you. You're probably sitting on a log. I feel like it's all the ingredients that is involved in the campfire as
yeah,
well.
yeah. And why does that bring out like is it vulnerability? Like you talked about some of those things. One of the reasons why I like being outside is I feel small and I'm a big human. Like I'm, as Claire likes to say, I'm a substantial human. So
I can't be on the podcast, but I'm a small human.
yeah,
But do.
exactly. I almost got a foot on you and it's fine. It's great. But I think there is something about the just like vastness of like being outside. And I know you like to spend time outside. So one of my favorite parts of our friendship is the exchanges through Marco Polo. And I'm like, where's Lizzy gonna be today? Like, what does that look like? Such good adventures. But there is something cool about, I mean, being outside on our own, but also like the campfire nature of those things. I think it just cracks people open. Like you get into a different setting and it's it might be voodoo magic. I couldn't explain it even if I wanted to.
It's just getting back to who we are, I think, because in a lot of
Mm,
situations that we sit in with other signifiers that often inform on our status or how like upper class, lower class, things like that kind of give you a marker point and this kind of like, the matrix world that we live in puts us all in boxes of
yeah.
systems of hierarchy and things. And it removes all of that. You are neutral. You are just sitting around,
Yeah.
equal, much more equal.
Everybody brings baggage, Lizzy. Okay. Some of it is more fancy than others, but
Right, I'll go with that.
all right. So I didn't prep you for this question, but you just gave me one. And you talked about like the matrix and like stripping things away and like all those sorts of things. So if you were going to try to encapsulate like who you are without these artificial labels, right? So you can't say mom, you can't say accomplished writer, you can't say I'm a friend. Like what how would you without these labels like
Nothing. Strip me.
well, you said that that's what happens when you're outside, and I know that you feel something when you're in those settings, but like, what is that? Where you're just like, ooh, this is me.
Mm. That's a really good question, and I
Like,
don't know the full answer to, but I'll attempt some things. So there is a big so that Britain has a class system, and I have a signifier that I can't get rid of, which places me into a class straight away, which is my accent.
Mhm.
And so I code shift. I'm aware of code shifting
Ooh,
in situations, counteracting what people might think already. So around a campfire, I feel like that gets removed a little bit. And with the accent, I feel like there is no need to do the code shifting or the counteracting prejudice or anything like that. You can just sit around a campfire and tell stories, usually. So I think who is Lizzy? Just a deep metaphysical question, Trevon.
I know, but you just hit on one, right? Like I'll give you a lob. You are a storyteller.
I don't know. I am a fickle person. Make me laugh, and you can have my heart. So
And somehow
quite
we're friends.
quite shallow in that way, I suppose. I think I think I just want to enjoy where I'm at and with who I'm with. Typically, that's my game. I've lost that kind of focus and game at certain points in life.
Yeah.
But typically I want to enjoy where I am and who I'm with. And if we can laugh at ourselves, that's an extra bonus. I don't know if that's the right answer.
Well, it's your answer, so it turns out that it's the right one. So okay, about you. So A plus if you're looking for,
Yes.
I see you. I see you. That's
All I ever want is an A plus.
from your random friends. Erica. That's
Yes.
so interesting because you just touched on something that like I'm fascinated more and more. And we were talking about kids before we hit record, and kids are they have such a great ability of like holding up a mirror when you don't want a mirror, right? It's like, oh, hey, dad, do you see that? Do you see what you're doing there? Does that feel good? And so, but you brought up like the class system and that's the specifics of what you have to navigate. I've never like had to experience that in that same way, right? Like I don't have your accent. Even though and the people that are listening, like we met serving Mormon missions in Scotland. And so that's my only exposure to like this thing. And I was dealing with very different things and didn't have to worry about a class system. It was like, oh, am I, going to survive next day? And we had targets on our backs anyway, because, we're wearing name tags, all this sort of stuff. So we stick out.
But I think America's different as well. I feel like Britain's much more class-centered historically than America anyway.
Yes. But there are different things that I just took for granted in so many ways. And so even having daughters, it's just like the big conversation over here in America is white male privilege and all these sorts of things. And in a beautiful way, especially Ava has helped me rethink through just like these little mirror moments. So like the one that started this like breakdown was walking in like a supermarket, and she just casually dropped this thing that like melted my brain. She's just like, Dad, have you ever noticed that you don't have to get out of people's way and everybody gets out of your way? And I was like, what did you just say to me? I was just like, and I never ever paid attention to that. And it's, me, like I'm not aggressive. I I smile, like I say hi to everybody, like even like hiking, my friends call me happy trails because I'm like happy, like that's what I say as people pass. Like I'm just like this chipper guy. And it blew my mind. And she was like, yeah, it doesn't matter. The only time that like you might have to move out of the way is for another white man. And I was just like, what just happened? And so there's been all these like little examples where I've really tried to be like, man, how am I showing up? Am I part of this like problem? And what does it look like? And so it's weird. I try to like almost jump out of people's way now. Like, I'm just like, I don't want to be like this. And so, but it's funny how, once you become aware of some of those things, it can either be a benefit or it can, you know, be weird to navigate. And so I'm sure I don't know when you became aware of like the class system and your accent, and it probably wasn't until you moved out of Liverpool, right?
Yeah, the minute you step out of Liverpool, there's the comments. There's less now. I don't know actually. There might be less now, but certainly in the 90s and 2000s, the minute you stepped out of Liverpool, there was always a comment that put you back in a lower station.
Ooh, that's tough.
It was usually an accusation of being a thief or uneducated.
Right. Man.
So, yeah. And you'd laugh it off. Now I won't. Now I'll just kill them. Everything in the world.
You're bringing back the Liverpool name right there. Just rough and tough and...
Have that campfire though.
That's right. That's right. Oh, my goodness.
I love that Ava does that. And I think that's the blessing of daughters as well, is just awareness, I suppose. Just gives you that extra awareness. Because as a parent, there's a whole new set of glasses that you put on as a parent as well. And so I can imagine that gives you that extra peripheral, I think.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's it's wild. It's wild. It is a gift, but it sometimes hurts. It's like, oh, thanks. Thanks. I love it. This is awesome.
But I
So,
feel like it's okay as like to just say it how it is. I think there's a lot of fear around saying it how it is.
yeah.
I think nepo babies are getting this at the moment, where they're being defensive
Yep.
of it. You don't need to be defensive of it and say, "Oh, I worked hard for this, therefore I deserve it." It's okay. Just say I worked hard for it, but I also had a pathway of opportunities, and I'm grateful for it.
Yeah.
Like just acknowledge it, and that just neutralizes everything and goes, "Brilliant. Okay, be honest. We like you now." Good. It's the way forward. Just be honest, and then it neutralizes everything, and we all know where we're at, and we all know what we're working on. And I think the defensiveness kind of it just you just kind of defend your ignorance,
Mm,
no matter who
yes.
you are and where you're at. Very, it's the thing that flags first potentially, but yeah, you can catch it. It's a good thing.
Yeah.
Can't catch it with my own teenage children. So
Um,
holding that mirror up, it's horrendous, isn't it?
yeah. Yeah. It's wild. It's wild. Yeah. That is interesting. I mean, moving from like class system to like generational, like norms and labels that come with, like we broadly paint these brush on, millennials or Gen X or like all these sorts of things, right? And so I appreciate you entertaining my like labelless, like, who are you with your labelless thing? But
Heck, I'm no.
that's not true. That's not true.
Yeah,
That's
you have that question. Do you start going, what questions do you ask instead to answer that question? Do you start like asking, okay, what do I contribute then? Or what do I offer someone? Or what can I give? Is it, do you think about those kind of questions?
Yeah, I think I just learned even more about you. So turns out you might be contribution motivated, with all the,
No, this is probably true because you know how you kind of write certain statements on your CV?
yeah.
That everyone writes without thinking about it, like self-motivated. And I would
Mm.
put that on my CV, assuming I was self-motivated. And recently I have learned I am not self-motivated. I am people motivated. Like I am so people motivated. And I've tried to write on my own. It's a really tough game. And I can write on my own if someone else is on the other side saying they'll read it or there's a deadline. It's going somewhere and they'll give me some feedback. But there's a couple of projects I'm trying to do just on my own.
Yeah.
And it's absolute dead water. And the minute I'm working with someone, I'm alive. I want to meet those deadlines. I love the bounce back.
Oh,
Someone else relying upon me. And I am people motivated. So I need to put that on my CV instead of self-motivated. I just need to put people motivated.
yeah. Yeah. What a great thing. And, I look at some of the stuff that you do have some accolades. I am going to make you talk about like, this is the thing where I was like, I could feel you on WhatsApp where you're just like, do not say it. But you've worked on some projects. So this actually makes a lot of sense where like you, when you stack your abilities with someone else's, you've gotten some wild, wild results, right?
Mhm.
And so I think this is what's fun about this question is like you even having that epiphany or being able to talk about that difference. Like imagine you were in a job interview and you were able to say like, hey, I used to put self-motivated and I am motivated, but this is how you can get the best out of me. And I think this has been like one of the greatest parts about, approaching middle age is just, kind of the permission slip that you were talking about before. It's like, no, like I actually want you to know me enough to like get the best out of me. And so what does that start to look like where it's like, hey, I can do independent work and I like doing that, but I also like being part of a team. I like deadlines. You're going to get the most of me if it's collaborative and some of those things. And so for, forever you put this label on yourself that actually wasn't true. And
Not true.
so Exactly. I'm also not self-motivated. This is why I was like, please help me. I'm trying to start this podcast. I need a good friend to have a conversation with. And so like I'm the same where it's just like, oh man, I love being able to build off of other people and what does that look like?
Mhm.
To be able to still feel good about the independent contribution. Like I still want that, right?
100%.
Yeah.
Actually, I've always typically been in collaborative spaces because I started in theatre, which is much more collaborative from the ground up. So you're always aware of everyone's role and part and the collaboration of that and the kind of the way the components work with theatre.
Yeah.
And switching into screen was different because there's a much more separate beginning, I think, and it doesn't work like an organic movement, I suppose.
Yeah.
Whereas it can be much more separate and then you come together. But with that, yeah, you kind of start with an ego, wanting to be good at everything or trying to be a writer. So for me as a writer, I want to
Yeah.
cover all the bases of being a writer. However, you quickly get flagged what your weak spots are. You quickly see where you lack certain skills or certain abilities. And you look at some writers who can do it all. And their brain just works on the multi levels that their brain works on. They work best solo, they work best like that. But, one of my notes that always came back was your characters are starting to sound all the same. So clearly my dialogue needed a shake up and needed some separation and things. And so working with somebody who was good at that,
Mm.
great for that. Because they understood the character, they understood how they spoke better, and it would be faster. Whereas for me, it's like it trudges through a bit of mud before I can get there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
hopefully I can become a writer that will hit all the boxes faster. But at the moment, it's good to recognize some.
Well, I think we all have those, and even the people that you idolize clearly in like, man, I wish I had that ability to have it all as a writer and be part of the total package. So you just articulated like one of the stumbling blocks that you might have as an independent writer. What are some of the things where someone else is grateful for what you're bringing to the table? So like, what do people ask you help on? What are the notes where it's just like, man, Liz, like you are crushing this?
I didn't start off like this. I think every writer, unless you're born like Mozart, maybe, but you have to kind of move through the cringe part of it. It's horrible because you can think here in your head, and the minute it comes out onto a page, it like drops like a lead balloon, and it's
Mm.
horrible. It's this horrible realization that you're like, gosh, thought I was a writer, but I don't think I am. And it's that kind of, and people talk about it in different ways. The vomit draft, where it just vomits out and stuff. You have to move through that cringe part, I think, and you just learn how the tricks, I suppose, and how to bring out the best of your writing voice. But I think one thing I really focus on at the moment is structure and identifying why it's not working and the problems, and then being able to answer them as well. And so, for an example, typically, this is a very kind of rudimentary answer, but you'll get a protagonist which has no flaws, for example. Or filmmakers will want to make a story about like somebody with dementia, but the question needs to be, but what happens to them? Or what do they want? Like they still have to want something still has to happen. We don't just want to be like a fly on a wall. That's not enough for us as an audience. Like give us some conflict, give us some stakes, give us some obstacles in the way of what they want.
Yeah.
And give us some flaws, give us their obstacles, what's tripping them up. And so I love identifying why it's not working and being able to fix that. And so for me, it's a lot to do with the development, which is what I ended up working in, was character development and story development.
Yep.
And fixing those problems. And then my independent writing will gradually get better and move, hopefully. But in the meantime, I can help fix other people's problems.
That's so funny. And I love how people can use similar skills in totally different industries or things like that. You just described like what I do as a management consultant.
Really?
Yeah. Like people have these like really cool ideas. They're successful. I do a lot of nonprofit work at the moment, but it's really cool to like illuminate. It's like, hey, this is how you can get unstuck, or here's, simple frameworks and things like that to say, hey,
Mm.
this is where I think that we could spend time to help you do even more than what you're already doing, and what does that look like? And so super interesting to hear your ability to help people navigate the sticky parts of a process to uncover that. And like we work in very different spaces, and what does that look like? And
Really interesting.
yeah, yeah,
That is
super
incredible.
funny.
And you can change one thing and it dramatically changes everything, and it brings something to life. It gives it the engine it needs, it gives it the energy it needs. It's not stuck. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's amazing. Yeah,
yeah,
I
that's
do
really
like
cool.
it.
So you've navigated stories in a couple different ways, if I'm remembering correctly. So you've done things about like historical figures, right? So there's been like information, and like telling someone's story is different than what you were just describing, where it's like, hey, this is a new character, or all these sorts of things, right? It's like, so where has there been some like tension in trying to do right by someone's story versus you are the one who's, starting from scratch, you're building like the development? Because I imagine that those two things are difficult, like that
Yeah.
it doesn't feel like the same, right?
No, so that's how I ended up. It's funny because I couldn't have predicted I would have ended up dealing with a lot of historical drama, for
Yeah,
example, or history or biopics and stuff. And I think it was typically, I enjoy reading and I enjoy history.
yeah,
And I think it was the job that somebody else didn't want. So they give me the books or send me to the archives to do all the research. I don't know. I was just the so I would get into the archives, I'd get into all of the history books, and what you're looking for, and this has moved on, like the culture of how we consume biopics, for example, has changed. Where you would, I think around the 90s, 2000s, you might watch a biopic which is like across their whole life sometimes. The culture of that's changed where they want to know what is the story we're going to tell with this time frame that we have,
mm,
and what question does that story ask. So it's then you get to see what where's the most fertile ground within this historical context or
yeah,
this life. So you're looking for the most fertile ground that also appeals to the current day audience as well, with how it might relate to them, because you can often relate or resonate with a current day audience better with some history than you can if you held the mirror up.
yeah,
Likes the mirror. See, look at politics. If it's 200 years ago, no problem. Everyone can sit there neutral, see who the bad guy is and see who the good guy is. But you can't do that with current day politics so easily because no one wants, the defense mechanism comes up and no one wants to be the audience member. And so that's how, so you're looking for the fertile ground within any story. So if it's history or if it's a character from history, you're looking for that fertile ground of what reaps the most, and the part of their life that they might have gone on a little journey or an arc. Because the life of Trevon Hauth, it's like this. There's many arcs,
oh
and then
yeah,
the overall arc of who you are at the beginning and who you are at the end. But we've got an hour and a half, or we've got a season of episodes. So which one are we focusing in on?
yeah,
And then when you do that, you look for the story that you want to tell about them, and look for that growth that you might get from that point. Is there enough conflict for the engine of the story? Can you find that in places? Can you, and history is written very palatable and very sugar coated. So you have to then look underneath and go beyond that sometimes and look for what's being sugar coated
yeah.
and where there might be a little bit more story.
Wild. So it's funny because you just also articulated through like your reps with historical like biopics and stuff like that, like why you're good at some of the other stuff with like character development and some of those other things, where like you just described going through historical mess to uncover these gems. and then you're able to translate that to non-historical stuff. And what does that look like, right? And anyway, just something that was, fascinating on.
Story.
Yeah.
The question, what is the story that we're telling?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wild. So is that what, so you went from like theater, which is rich with storytelling, into more of, it's like short films is really like where you got your start, right? And which is also, I'm obsessed with the last guy that was on the podcast is really into comics, and he started writing just more like self-help like style things and reflections. But we talked about comic books quite a bit, and it's like, man, you have to be so concise and you have to be like really good at the story, because there's not a lot of words, and you got to develop and like all those sorts of things. And so I imagine that that's also difficult with short film. Like,
yes, different language. It's funny that you talk about comic strips, because that's what we often require from the director, is that they need to then do basically a picture by picture storybook comic, because they're doing it for the director of photography or the cinematographer. They're showing the shots that they want to take to tell a story. And so that, comic, often people come to that job from comic book.
really?
Because there's no words, and you have to tell the story with as little words as possible. And typically with film, that is the case. It's like, how can you show it? How can you tell it without the words? Because you get to go in and zoom in and be a bit more microscopic with film, typically. And I came from theatre, so I started off quite wordy, and I've learned that slowly.
I would never have described you as wordy.
Yeah.
That should have been the first label when I was like, what? Who is this? What's wordy?
My draft calls are quite extensive. I've had to get used to just everything, like 80% ending up on the chopping room floor, so to speak. Just call.
I love it. I love it. So as a writer, you come with this idea, you then have to partner with the director. You just illuminated like some of the other side of like the storytelling element has very little to do with your writing, right? It's like, how are we framing like these shots, and how are the visuals also helping like reinforce the story? Where has that been like really cool for you to like dive into? Where have you been frustrated with taking things from like the page to the screen? And like, where have you had to wrestle with, that aspect of like, oh man, I actually need to bring this to life, and or help someone bring it to life? And what does that look like?
The first wrestle that typically you have is with the producer. They're usually like, this is too expensive.
Do less.
Put the locations down, cut the characters down, cut everything. And that's, I think, because when you start off I think this is why it's really good for low budget filmmakers to realize that they're actually on a really good training ground for this, because you have to get to the heart of the story, and you have a very specific brief. You don't have all of the budget, you don't have all the locations, and you can't have all the characters, because characters is money as well. And so you have to then figure out how you tell the story on as small a budget as possible. And that actually refines you as a storyteller, because you have less option to be indulgent, and you have to get to the heart of it. So I think starting off an independent film, short form, is a real craft as well. Festivals do not like you going over 12 minutes. Otherwise, they probably won't put your film in it. So you have to be very precise and efficient with the story that you're telling and how you're telling it. And so the producer typically is like, that's expensive, like cut.
Yeah.
Retell a story without this location, retell a story without these characters. And then that really refines how you do it. And so when I started off, I was kind of wearing a producer's hat and a director's hat as well. So I wrote, and then I had the producer hat on and put the director hat on, and all of that kind of shapes everything. And you have to, there's the famous saying, you have to kill your darlings. Have you heard that before?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to kill your darlings. And so once you put your producer hat on, and sometimes I'm writing with that as well in mind now, because I already know how a producer would approach a script. I already know how a director wants to approach the script. So you sometimes have that on mind and you're writing it as well. So you probably, writing for screen, you have to write visually. You have to write with what you're seeing a lot
Yeah.
of the time.
Interesting. So obviously you like went that direction. What kept you in it? Like what was like the most exciting like pieces? Like you use this to like travel the world and like all this sort of stuff. Like what are you most proud of? Like as you have like navigated and got into this, because it was fun to watch.
You did watch it all, didn't you? Yeah,
I did.
You've been good. You've been a good supporter. I think it's like everything, Trevon. You approach something new, it's unknown, you fear the unknown, you don't know how you're going to pull it off. In right early days, one of the first scripts I was given, weirdly, was an American historical drama. And I was like, I am the wrong an American historical drama. Ugh. And then you just get to grips with it. You just put your head into the history of it and into the lives of the people. You walk in other people's shoes. You imagine what that would be. And then before you know it, you've written a scene and a character, or you developed a character, you've written a scene, and then you've written a script and it gets attacked, but it's okay. You do another draft. And so it's one of those things. The unknown is unknown and you fear it. But if you can just walk into it, you kind of discover what you can do. And then you become quite confident with it. And that's a lovely feeling, to feel confident in certain areas. And there's a lot of areas of that I look at some of the greats other people, my own muses, and I'm like, oh, I'm not there yet. But that's good. That gives me my motivation as well to get better. Most proud of. I don't know, actually, because, Trevon, I've got such a strong inner critic.
I know. That's why I'm making these nice things about yourself.
Really ferocious inner critic.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm satiated very easily. I don't think I'm satisfied very easily. Don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I don't know.
So is it not being satiated at all, or do you only allow those as like fleeting moments? Like, can you give me a fleeting moment of like, even if you only let yourself have it for like a minute?
Do you know, it's so funny because I think when we got into our first festival with a short film, I was so chuffed. I was like, I think I announced it on social media.
Yeah.
Now, like, things will happen and I'm like, oh, but the film this, and I'd change this about it and I'd do it differently in this way, which is really funny because, yeah, I think I'm really grateful that I've stuck with it. I kind of know that I have an appetite for understanding the human condition. I've got an appetite for enjoying consuming that and enjoying other people's work in it, and an appetite for flawed people and flawed character and failure and how you overcome things. And so this is like, this will always be an unresolved interest for me. I'll never resolve it.
Yeah.
I will never be satiated in it. But I think that's a good thing, because I think we should always be trying to have that commentary on life and commentary on us and us, on society and on people. I think this is how we learn, how we progress as a, human kind, human species. So I think that part is good. I remember who I was when I first started writing, and I cringe at the messiness of that writer, and I cringe at the normal kind of trip ups that you do, that you think
Okay.
and it's all normal, it's all part of the learning. So I'm grateful for how far I've come and how I can now see and have certain skill sets in that as well as the passion. I think before it was just the passion. I remember when I first kind of announced what I was doing to someone, a very honest friend, and she said, "What makes you think you can be a writer?" And she said, "What makes you think you're right?" And I said, "I don't know." I said, "I just want to give it a go." And I think that's still the story. I don't know if I'm a good writer. I just want to keep giving it a go. Yeah.
Yeah. I am obsessed with that. And just another couple of things that I love to learn about you because we've known each other for so long. It's so great because these are things that were true when we were in Scotland as well. And so it's just fun to hear it in like a totally different context. But it's funny how, the first time that you made it to a festival, like of course you were excited and there's something to that of like, ooh, this is now beyond whatever is inside my head. Like there is like a prestige or like no, I made it to a certain degree, right?
Okay.
So
Yeah.
there's the external validation. But what's
Mhm.
really cool is you didn't get caught up in that. And so as you touched on that for like 2 seconds, you're like, oh, I was excited. And
I
now
was. And actually, now you're saying this, you are making me remember certain things. I was just happy to be there. I'd like got this invitation to the party and I was just happy to be there.
yeah,
And that was it. Like, that was it. I was like, I can't believe it. Can't believe it. And now it's like the inner critic has come out and it's like, it's strong. And also, well, carry on saying what you were saying and I'll come back to what I'll say.
yeah. So no surprise that you're hard on yourself. And I think that that helps with your writing. But it sounds like as you pivoted from what you were talking about with, those early moments, you came back to some of the stuff where you started of like why you're excited about writing. And so it's like, oh, there's like stepping into ambiguity and navigating like all those things. So it sounds like you're still in it because of the process
Yeah.
as opposed to the party, to use your like recent language, right? Which I
Mhm.
think is really beautiful. And so like even on like the critic side, like you can be like, oh, like whatever, we made it in or we didn't. If
Mhm.
you have moved past that because of your growth mindset of like, oh no, I'm genuinely excited to be in the mess and in the story. And I think it's beautiful that what comes after that mess is less exciting for you
Mhm.
now,
Yeah.
right? Like I think that is its own indicator of, oh no, this is why I'm in this, as opposed to no, I'm in this just to party, which is fun sometimes for
I love a party. I think you know that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And so that was just
It's
something that was really
so
interesting.
interesting.
And yeah.
That's the thing that I think will never be satiated. And I think that's a good part of that. I
Mhm.
think what I do need to balance is the inner critic because I don't self-promote very well.
Mm.
And I don't know if it's a British thing or my own upbringing or something, but I struggle with self-promotion. I try and do that and it feels so unnatural every time I put something on social media. But I have to think about it as because it's a collaborative process, it's other people's successes. So I have to just shut that brain down and celebrate everybody else who worked on it, who is usually phenomenal and brilliant at what they do,
Mhm.
that made it happen as well. And so that's what's lovely about the work that I do. You can never say it was just me. Everyone else, their talent and expertise to it and makes it happen. And when you close that process, you see the expertise and you see everyone with their kind of specific perfectionism. Like I love being in the editor's room because I learn so much about storytelling from an editor's point of view and what we cut and what they're trying to do. And so y- you see everyone with their kind of niche part of it. I think I think what happens is when you hope and you dream of things and then you get there and then you go, okay, but actually what brought me here was I want to refine this ability and this skill.
Mm.
And then there is I would like to have an income from it. An independent film is not fancy money. It's probably
What?
sorry to break the
You heard it here first, everybody. You heard it here first.
first. It's another art area. So but I did make bread and butter from research and development work in front of the company doing their content. So there was bread and butter there, but I still have my own personal goals to kind of get better as an independent writer.
Mm.
Well,
I love that. I love that. So you talked about ambiguity, and I'm following your story arc now.
Okay.
You're helping me with this podcast. So you mentioned one of the things is like character development, navigating ambiguity. You've had some of the success, and then you get this wonderful opportunity to apply that same thing for your life.
I know where we're going.
And you talk about like working with other people, your husband who has had a fascinating career of his own as an entrepreneur and all these sorts of things, but you found yourself in the not so distant past at this crossroads.
It was a big one for me.
Wow. Again, so fun to watch from across the world. And
Oh, was it? I'm glad this fell apart and unraveled in front of my eyes. You were there with your popcorn.
exactly.
Okay, Lizzie.
Well, stop telling such good stories and I'll stop buying the popcorn. Like that's where we're at.
Yeah.
But out of something that was like really scary, and I'll let you tell like whatever version of the story that you want, you did create something beautiful and it wasn't planned. It unfolded over time. Like it's crazy hearing you with your storytelling process and then to see how from an outsider perspective, you lived it through your own like experience. And that is like mind-boggling to me. I'm just like, man, you like actually like breathe in these spaces. Like it's like the subconscious. So I'm learning more about like why you were like, hey, can we do a story arc for this podcast? Is it like breathing? Breathing. It's breathing for you. So when it might have been hard to breathe because stuff was happening in your life. What was that?
Yeah, okay, so you might want to have Anthony on actually if you want to talk about this part in terms of the real nitty-gritty of this part. Anthony, my husband, might be best for this, but let me give you an overview, a very simplistic overview. His business hit crisis point, and we looked at the numbers. They did not add up, and they would not be adding up anytime soon. And because of the market he was in, which was property in London, we will give you this. London property had gone up, I think, every 7 to 10 years. It had doubled.
Oh
So if
my
you had
gosh.
property and you could hold on to it for 7 to 10 years, it would double. And it had done that since the war, but it didn't do it these last 10 years. In fact, it went down. And this is like the niche part of like what happened with the London property specifically, to do with various political, economical insecurities and situations that were happening in the UK and Britain and the world. Brexit, COVID, some of those things played out. Lots of elections, everything becomes unstable with elections and everything.
Yeah.
But we'd held on and we'd held on. And he was carrying quite a lot of asset, but we held on. And it was all going to turn around, hopefully 2020. And it was looking fantastic. Things were going up again. And then the COVID hit, I suppose. And that's when we really had to make some really big decisions, because the asset we were carrying wasn't our own money either. There was people who had invested their money. These are people knew. So it wasn't just a bank. It wasn't just a faceless loan. It was real people who we loved, who had invested with their trust and everything. And those numbers did not add up in the slightest anymore. And so we had to make some really big decisions. And my husband has, okay, let me put this in the way. My Austrian friend, she said it like this. She said, the problem with Anthony is he's not an arsehole. He's like, my husband's very good at business, but he's also an arsehole. I'm not sure. Anyway, so Anthony just didn't have the stomach for telling everybody business has gone bad, you don't get your investment back, which I think people would do and do. He couldn't do that. I know he couldn't do that because I know him. I know what he can't live with. I know what he can't sleep with. And so I remember he'd been in a stress situation for a prolonged time. So you almost get used to it as a kind of permanent
Yeah.
like stasis. And so he was in that for a long time. So I think I just got used to him being like that. And then I remember just one night he said, I can't imagine what it's feel like not to feel nauseous every second of the day. And I thought, oh, I think that's might be quite serious if that's how he's always feeling. And he can't remember the last time he didn't feel that.
Yep.
I don't know how long he's been stressed for. And I think it was hard for him to kind of turn around to his wife and say, things are really bad. They're much worse than what you think they are. Because in my head, I'm like, we're fine. We're fine. We've got assets. There's money in assets. There's properties in London. We've got money. We sell them. We make money. And maybe I had a bit of simplistic idea about capital and leveraging money and things like that. But if you think about, even if it had gone up just 15, 20% with what we were carrying, we'd have been more than fine.
Mm.
So he can go into the details of that.
Yep. I would love. Yeah.
You might want him on for that. Either way, he had to have these hard conversations with me and actually like put it really clear what it meant for us and lay it all on the table and what our choices were. And our choices were drastic as well. So what we ended up doing was selling our house. We lived in a nice area in West London. It doesn't matter. The house was big. It was in a good location. And so we could get the most money out of our house to pay back people who needed their money back. And we kept some assets in London for when we came back to either live off or figure out our next plan with it. Either way, we put all our choices on the table. We decided, okay, we're going to sell our house. And instead of just uprooting the kids, we have 3 children from their schools and their communities and just going to rent somewhere cheaper because renting in that area was not cheap or financially viable for us at that time. We decided to get a motorhome. 5 of us, 2 adults, 3 children and a dog. And we got in it with no plan. And we just drove off into the sunset. And I think this is it's kind of characteristics of where our heads were as well. Like there was definitely survival modes in place. I knew when we put those choices on the table, we were thinking about ourselves, we were thinking about the children, we were thinking about how we can surface a load of debt. And we very much just went, okay, let's turn this into adventure, 1 for ourselves and 2 for the children, mainly for the children.
Mm-hmm.
And we would never do this. We knew that we would never do it again. We knew that we would never have the opportunity. It was kind of a compelled thing.
Yeah.
So we got in a motorhome and we ended up traveling and living in that motorhome for about 16 months. And we traveled Europe in it.
So wild. I love this story.
That wasn't even our plan when and we were selling our house. We were getting the motorhome.
Yeah.
But your brain is still trying to hold on to the life that you're losing. Do you go, how can we make the life we're losing work? How can we still keep our roots here? So we didn't even let go of the children's places in school because it lined up where we were selling our house around the same time they would finish school for the year. We wondered if we were just going to be in a motorhome for a few months, come back, rent in the area, keep the kids' places in school. None of those decisions were made. We could not see a week in front of us. Like, in fact, sometimes we couldn't even see a day in front of us. We couldn't see where we were going to be. We couldn't see where we were going to park up in our van. We couldn't see what we were going to do with our children, with school and education. We couldn't see anything. So we'd gone from like a really constructed, see in front of you life that felt very comfortable to a very uncomfortable, unstructured, insecure life in all ways. But yeah, no, Anthony came home with the motorhome. And this is a British motorhome, so it's not like you guys have in America, those huge.
Oh yeah. This is like a sprinter van for those in America that are watching this. This is a van, not a.
It was a 6-berther, enough for 6 British people to sleep in. So, it was tight and a dog. But that was big for us because we were like, we're going to be living in it. We won't go tighter than that. So it was a big one for us. But we also thought we'd be living outside of it, as in we were going to follow the sun and find the sun. But that all changed as well. Anyway, so yes, we ended up in this motorhome. He brought it home on the Saturday. This is how like on the line we were, and we left our house on the Tuesday, and none of that looked like how you think it would look like. It was so, I don't know. We were just moving from house to house. We were moving out of a house and into a motorhome. So the depletion of our things, we were trying to get rid of stuff and put stuff in storage or sell stuff on Facebook Marketplace for weeks before that point. But if you've ever moved house, there's all this like collateral that just comes out of every corner and drawer. Didn't even know we had all this crap. Just dumping it on the drive and then take it. It was very crazy actually. That whole like leaving the house was a whole story and ordeal. And we ended up on my mother-in-law's. We ended up with excess in the van, and we ended up on a friend's drive for the first night for our kids to go to school the next day. And then we ended up on my mother-in-law's front lawn, and we spilled the van out and we sorted the last bit of chaff from the stuff that we were actually going to drive off in the van with. And we drove off in the van, and we traveled Europe basically. And there was plenty of hairy situations, plenty of what the hell are we doing moments, like just looking at each other going, what are we doing? This first few months was like a baptism by fire. It just exposed everything, every weak part of you, every weak mentality you have, every part of your mental and physical comfortability that has now become uncomfortable. You're confronted with all of those things from the get-go. And because it's not a week or 2 weeks, it's a permanent situation.
Yeah.
Front of you. You don't know how long that permanent situation is lasting, I suppose. So it was a good, it wasn't the 240 miles you did, but it was a good mental exercise. So.
Oh, it was 16 months of that. What are we talking about?
But we broke through that stress point. We broke through that baptism by fire point.
When what was that transition? Because I love how you just teed this up. It was like you had roots, you had stuff, you had all these things, right? And in the midst of one of the most global, insane times regardless, right? So like you're stacking that on top of it, like global insanity. So like the world was different anyway for everybody. And then you layer on this wild adventure, and you're doing your thing. So you're navigating ambiguity. I don't know how you were not thrilled with this thing. It's like, this is what I do. Yes, we're getting it. But like, what was that? I'm so curious. What was like the breakthrough? Because again, and we talked about this. I wish Marco Polo didn't like get rid of a bunch of stuff, because I got to see the whole thing, and it was a wonderful rekindling of our friendship. Like we hadn't, connected in a while. And so I was just like, I got a front row seat. But so I'm curious, was there like a moment? Was there like a destination where you were like, oh man, this is like, we've crested the hill. I can see more than a week in front of me. Like, what was that moment?
Oh, you reminded me of so much. And actually, do you know what? This is really good because I am actually trying to write a book about it. Yeah, I am. I'm trying to put it into chapters and create that arc, which I can see clearly now. But at the time I couldn't. When you're in it, you can't see anything. But, you're just trying to get to the next hour, the next day in front of you. And actually, in the beginning, we were kind of talking about the climate of the world that we were in. We couldn't make plans for that reason because we didn't know if we were going to drive off, if the world was going to send us back. And so, how long we could go for, what countries we could get into. Everything was a question mark. Absolutely everything, because everything was still in that environment of instability. And the world can shut down if it wants to, and it can send you back, or it can lock you in a location if it wants to. It will do that. And so this was the summer of 2021. So we got through 2020. June 2021, we were in the van. End of June 2021, we were in the van, but a family member decided to get married right in the middle of summer. So we were then kind of like stuck in Britain at least, not stuck in Britain, stuck in Britain at least, but it was summertime. So we did Britain, but we did it with a hat of like, where could we live next as well? So we got to drive through different locations, and we enjoyed the best of Devon and Cornwall before schools got out. We enjoyed the Lake District, which are just the most beautiful parts of England, the Peak District, the Lake District, Scotland, how beautiful countryside is, and the coastline is stunning. And if you get the weather, it's amazing. The first weeks that we headed down to Cornwall, we did not get the weather. And in fact, it's appropriate stuff. So I think, the kids go through growth spurts all of a sudden and nothing fits them. And we just like, we'll buy some new shoes on the way, just get in the van, we're driving off. And we were in this campsite in the middle of Cornwall, and it was just raining every day. Will had one pair of shoes that was soaked through. We didn't even have like raincoats for everyone for some reason. I can't remember why. Everyone had just grown onto things. And we were navigating this small space with each other. My husband has like, I'm the creative. I explode out into a space. He's very organized, very efficient. OCD, should we say? So when it gets messy or when it gets compounded like that, his threshold is a little bit weaker. He's still carrying huge amounts of mental stress as well. And so we're in this space and we're all a little bit like atoms, just rubbing each other up the wrong way. And I opened one of those overhead things, and or one of the kids was jumping around me, and it hit me right here in the nose, when like you want to cry and you want to scream at the same time. And I just looked at Anthony as if to say, like, what's going on? Because I think the kids have been in arguments as well, and it was raining outside, so everyone was stuck in the van. And he just looked at me and saw the look in my eyes, and he was just like, you never assess after day one. That was his lie. Like, you never assess after day one. So because he does projects and development of property, and you never assess if it's going to be a failure or a success after day one, because you meet, all the problems come out of the woodwork. And he just said that, and that's all we kept saying to each other every time we hit this moment of like, what are we doing? He was just like, you don't assess after day one. Then you're like several weeks into it, and we're still sitting after day one. Start assessing if this is a good thing that we're doing or a bad thing that we're doing. And essentially we got across to Europe. We didn't go to France. So we had to, because of the political, environmental, social situation, there's all the hoops to jump through to leave your country. Brexit had meant there was even more rules and laws for us as Brits to leave Britain to get into Europe.
Yep.
That had meant more protocol for having a dog with us as well. So there was a whole much more paperwork and things that we had to do to wait as well. I didn't realize we'd met it for the first time. It was all new. And we bypassed France because France had extra rules and laws going on with the COVID.
Yeah.
And we got ferry from the south of England to Spain. And then we rolled off into Spain, and we got as south as possible to get to the sun.
Yeah.
Our plan was to follow the sun. I'll give you a quick overview. Our plan was to follow the sun, but I think it was that winter of 2021, there was a whole new COVID outbreak, and a bunch of countries started to react to that with different rules and laws. We wanted to cross to Morocco, but Morocco shut their borders, and then we didn't know if we got there, if we could get back, because they told us not to go through Algeria, which is fine. I understand.
It's fine.
It's fine. We won't go then. And so there was then risk with that. And then one of our friends who we knew, who had lived in Kingston, who had to go back to Austria, our Austrian friends, they'd said their house is empty for 3 weeks over Christmas. Do we want it? And they lived in Salzburg. And we had no plan for winter at that point. And we couldn't follow the sun. So we said, yes, please. And we had to do what you call the Schengen shuffle. So you're allowed 3 months in a Schengen zone in Europe, and then you can come out of it, and then you can go back in it. And so you have to kind of play your time. It is interesting, actually. It's a whole game. It's like playing a game of some sort. Like, you have to do the Schengen, jump out the Schengen zone, you can come back in the Schengen zone. You kind of buy time. The longer you're out the Schengen zone, you can buy time in the Schengen zone. So based on what country is what, we had to get out the Schengen zone because we were going to be going to Austria, which was in the Schengen zone. So we went to Croatia for a few weeks and Airbnb for cheap there. That got us our time in Austria. And then after Austria, we reassessed and we said, okay, let's do a winter. Where are we going to do it? We have to leave the Schengen zone and let's learn to ski. We'd never skied before or snowboarded. So we went to Romania outside the Schengen zone to learn. And then after Romania, we went to Bulgaria to a resort and stretched our legs there. And neither of them were in the Schengen zone.
Amazing.
I remember. And then after that, we dropped down into Turkey. And there were certain points where I was relaxing into it. But there is a mind that always wants to see in front of you and always wants to plan.
Yeah.
I didn't get, so I wouldn't say there was a real turning point. It was a graduation of like breaking down that part of your mental that you can just give way to the road almost and just know you'll find somewhere to park up and you'll find somewhere to sleep and you'll find somewhere to eat. But I think the real change happened for us. Skiing was great fun. Don't get me wrong. I love the mountains and I love skiing and learning a new skill.
Yep.
Which at the time I was 38, learning to ski, definitely. Now I saw the kids just bouncing around, whereas my brain was going, gravity doesn't work like this. You're going to kill yourself.
Love that. Yeah. Feel that on a soul deep level. Yeah.
Yeah. But so I loved the mountains and I loved being there. And we met a whole nomad community there. So the kids had people to play with and hang out with, and we'd meet on the mountains. And it was a great experience of life. And they gave us some tips on where to go to tap into other nomad communities. But I think it was Turkey. When we dropped into Turkey, we were only dropping in for 2 weeks because all the other nomads had said, you have to go to Turkey. It's the best country to be a nomad and a traveller in. And we were just going to drop in for 2 weeks before we went to Greece and came through Europe. And we stayed for 3 months. And
Wild.
Everything about what Turkey did to us as a family, as a whole, like it was just healing on every level. And I did not have to see an hour in front of me. And I just knew that life was going to be okay.
Wild. What a cool thing. So
I'm so sorry.
that was a beautiful answer. So, and it's so funny because there's connections back to like the beginning of the story, and you talked about how like you just tied a wonderful bow on all this stuff, where it's like a turning point was you finding community. And so just like your like, oh, I'm self-motivated, right? It's like, no, I do better with people. And your whole story arc was you trying to find, and it's like, it's just us and the family. It's just the 6 of us in this band. It's like all this like sort of stuff, dog included. And then it was finding community that led to, the turning point for what that is. What a cool thing. I love it.
And actually, tie this back, let's tie it even more back. It was sitting around campfires and campsites with this nomad community. You know what happens when you're traveling and you get into a campsite, and typically it's out of holiday, typical vacation times. And the people that are there are other nomads and other travelers who are on the road for a variety of reasons.
Yeah.
And brought them on the road for a variety of reasons. I'd started when we first left the UK. For me, it was like, I'm running away. I was running away from the stress and the crisis that had come into our life, that had took a curveball, and the life I saw in front of me was no longer existent. So I didn't want to look at it. I wanted to look away, and I wanted to run away. I didn't want to look at what I'd lost because I was still kind of mourning and grieving that. Like I was a it's down, live here for the rest of my life person. I had an amazing community that I loved. And so it felt very raw and torn. And when we crossed over to Spain, that was me in escapism mode. I was like, just pretend we're a normal family that hasn't even gone through a crisis. We're just on holiday. Anthony, he's like, honest. I'd be there just trying to escape and read my book. And I'd hear him telling like just people he'd met at the campsite, a whole life story and the debt and the crisis point of his work and selling the house. I'm like, why do we have to relive it? Why is he telling these people we'll never see them again? He doesn't need to tell them. Just tell them we're on holiday and we don't have any problems. Out to everyone. And so I had to get used to that because for me, I wanted to just run away and not look, and I wanted to escape. And there was a reprieve in it. There was that part of it. But what was lovely about tapping into the nomad community is that you're around campfires. Although we did meet them, our first nomad community we met in the mountains, but it was similar. You would get into the mountain huts and have your hot chocolate and share while you were on the road.
Yeah.
It was then around campfires in Turkey that you'd meet people, and they were on the road for like reasons that were like a huge variety of reasons, crisis points, a death in the family, loads of different reasons that brought people on the road, and whole families as well. Like, just, it was amazing. And I think that was really healing. And you felt normal. You didn't feel like the anomaly. You didn't feel like, oh, this has just happened to me and everyone else is living their peaceful, happy life. You suddenly felt like you weren't the anomaly. You were amongst other people that were navigating their own crisis point and turning it into this lovely adventure as well.
Yeah. So your day one, it sounds like lasted a while. And then Turkey was your assessing point, or it's like, ooh, like maybe we can assess and see what it's like. You just had an extended day one, friend. That's all.
That's true. Yeah, it was good.
So
it was when I think Turkey was when I think you gradually start to let go.
Yeah.
But Turkey, I had fully let go to everything. And even how life needed to look, how life needed to be, my expectations, which is really important as well for the marriage relationship, because there was negative feelings towards Anthony that were carried and buried and as well. So, because you look for someone to blame, you look for blame points, because somehow I think in crisis points you want to blame someone because somehow it relieves, it creates an outlet for something, good or bad, I think. And he was an easy target. And so,
well, close proximity for sure.
And that wasn't fair. That wasn't a fair, assumption to make, but it's what, marriage unearths an awful lot of hell, doesn't it? So it was certainly something I had to navigate. Yeah.
That's so interesting, because I love the like turning point and like letting go. And I love your authenticity of the statement of like, no, I was running away. Like I was escaping, and I can just see you reading a book while Anthony is trying to heal. Like there was probably this like pressure relief for him. And I know that he was still stressed and all that sort of stuff. Right. So it wasn't like, oh, we're in a van now, problem solved, but it was probably for the first time in a long time, it sounds like, where it was like, he had a solution, might not have been ideal, but like it was momentum that wasn't backwards for him, probably for the first time in like forever.
Yes. You've nailed that.
Yeah. And then the only person that he had come clean to was like you, and then the investors, right? Which are friends, like I trusted people. And so I can only imagine like the cathartic nature of him just being able to be like, I've told now like 10 people, and now I want everybody to know, because I've known for so long.
He was just a sloping book.
Yeah. And part of the healing process.
Failure. Here's what it looks like.
Here we go.
I was totally in runaway, which I think me. Like, I will run away. I will escape. I use humor, I think, as levity from hard stuff. Like, you made me towards the things in my life, and you're there to laugh with me about it instead.
Yeah. That's one of the reasons why I was excited to call you during my tumultuous times and things like that. I was like, oh, we're going to talk about things, but we're also going to laugh like a lot. It's going to be great. It's going to be beautiful.
What I think this is unique about this friendship is that you will call me out and tell me when I'm being ridiculous or moaning about something I shouldn't be moaning about, or like you'll call me out and just you'll be the mirror in a way of like showing me that you need to stop.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So you spent some time escaping. You had this wonderful Turkey experience. So to kind of wrap up, and you mentioned a book. So I am curious about, like, what are you curious about now? Like, are you running towards something? Like you had this escape, and then you had this moment of like, I think we're going to be okay. And then, so has there been a turning point of like, what are you like running towards now? What is the curiosity? Where are you heading?
Like that question. So yes, so if you bring Anthony on, he can go more in detail with it, because it was the first, as you say, what you mentioned there, like the first kind of steps of starting to solve a problem, but we still are carrying problems.
What? You're human? Stop it.
You're yes.
You look great for carrying all that weight, friends.
I'm doing some weightlifting with the weight. So we the hole we were in was mammoth, and we escaped off for 16 months, and we thought, right, we would, if we could financially do this and we were in a different point of life, we would have carried on and
Yep.
just joined the world school and community and educated the kids that way and carried on around the world, I think. But we had to kind of face some music. So we came back to the UK and we found somewhere to live. Actually, that changed in the hills, because now we wanted the outdoors and nature around us. But we came back to another environmental crisis in terms of a financial crisis, because there was a prime minister at the time called Liz Truss, and this was 2022.
Okay.
She created very fast economical challenges in a short space of time.
Gosh.
I don't know if you got any of that news over in America, but interest rates skyrocketed.
Oh,
So the property that we did have, that we were hoping to make some money off or live off,
yeah.
we had to sell that fast because we couldn't afford those interest rates. Mortgages of each one of them just blew up. So the pocket of money that we had to live off disappeared fast as well.
Sure. Okay.
But I think that whole journey, that whole reprieve had given us something of just, look, we don't have to see directly in front of us anymore to know that things look okay. We just get up and we keep going and we keep doing it. And so that's the last 2 years, I suppose, have been a lot of that. And the facing how long term this challenge actually is interesting, because that might be a good parallel with your race, because you didn't do a park run 5K. Mile like a psycho.
Hey, this is about you. Don't make this about me.
Part of that race is how long it lasts, right?
Yeah.
Thing.
Without a doubt.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, you can be in a financial crisis or in debt for a short time, but when you're carrying that for a long period of time,
Yep.
there is a different psychological weight that comes with it and challenge. So I think that's what we've been carrying on the long term, but we'll get there. However, what am I curious about now? I still love story. I still love human nature. I still love exploring it in prose and book form, in film, and just give me all the rough edges of people and give me all the challenges and the rawness of life that people deal with and go through and navigate, and give me the heart and soul of people through story and writing. So I'm still in that endeavor. However, I'm going to tell you this story about what I'm curious.
I love it.
You don't know this, I don't think I've shared this with you.
I can't wait.
It's a curiosity that comes from we were exposed to so much that we wouldn't have been exposed to traveling anyway. Yeah. Countries we went through and the mindsets and the adjustments of everything and cultures and food and everything. Not to sound like a cliche, but that's what comes with the territory, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But we'd been traveling, we were driving. When we traveled through Romania and Bulgaria, whenever we were on the road, I would see like houses in the hills and farmland in the hills. And next to it, at some point, you'd see like a line of boxes, like little wooden boxes in a line. And I was like, what are they? What's that? And then I was like, oh, because they'd sell their honey as well from their homes often, in all the stores, like homemade honey, forest honey and stuff. And I was like, oh, are they beehives? Has everyone got their own beehives here? And there might be a bit more of that in America. But I was a city girl through and through, Liverpool to London. That was it. I was a city addict. I was a city girl. I
Yeah.
loved the city. I loved the adrenaline of it, the energy of it. That's what I kind of loved and craved and was addicted to. And so I'd never actually really been exposed to beekeeping at all. So here I am noticing as well. And I think this is interesting because we reveal ourselves to ourselves almost. Like
Yeah.
characters reveal who they are, what their intentions are, what their agendas are by what they do, by what they say. People think they're hiding something, but they're not. They're constantly revealing something. And I was kept noticing these little boxes in these hills. And I was like, what are they? What are they? And I figured out, I think, the beehives, but I'd never seen any of them close up. And then we parked up in South Turkey in Tarsus, actually. It was like the most far southeast that I think we actually ended up in, because from that we traveled back towards the west. But I'd got up and gone for a dog walk in the morning, and I'd found myself literally face to face with this, just like there was a bit of wild land, and on it was about 50 beehives close up. And there was nothing between me and the beehives. There was just, I mean, I knew not to just walk up to them,
Yeah.
but I felt the strongest compulsion that I should walk up to them and that I would open them up and understand what I was looking at. Like, I felt that I should know what I was looking at. Like, it was just this compulsion that I should walk up to these beehives and open them and know what to do and know what I was looking at and know how to, you know, I would know, I'd have that knowledge, and I
Yeah.
didn't have knowledge. So it was like this friction, this wrestle of like, I'm feeling this, but I have never been this close to a beehive in my life. And here I am feeling like I should just walk up and open the thing and start getting it out. And so I went back to the van and I went into Auntie. I was like, Auntie, I've just seen like 50 beehives, a whole apiary of beehives. And I felt like I should walk up and open them. He was like, oh, that's interesting. I was like, yeah. And I said, I think I want to learn how to beekeep.
Amazing.
And so that curiosity stayed with me as I traveled. You'd see it and stuff and things, but I never got close to the action until I came home. And I knew as soon as we were settled, I wanted to look into learning
Okay.
and doing that. So that's what I've been doing.
No way.
Yeah, I love it. I absolutely love it. Like, it's really interesting how certain environments can make you panic and certain environments can put you at total ease. And it can be different for everyone. Like, I knew from a young age, I never wanted to put my hand in someone's mouth and be a dentist. Knew that.
Yep.
I'm going to do that. Well, I will put my hand into a beehive, no problem. Like, I mean, it's gloved, so it's fine, but
Well,
But-
hopefully the dentist is too, but like, that's true.
that's true. Yeah, I'm loving it. So I'm really interested. I've been going to the trainings and I'm following a beekeeper around. And they're saying you can just get your own hive and start doing it and learn as you go. I kind of just want to know a little bit more about disease and if the hive's in trouble. What does that look like?
Okay.
Is, dwindling? What does that look like? And what are the signs and stuff? And signs of a healthy colony, signs of a non-healthy colony.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll see. I'll get one soon. Yeah. And start doing it.
That is incredible. So I mean, that's an awesome story of like why and like how, and just being like curious about like this thing that you see and then having that experience. Like, that's really cool, of the compelling nature and all that sort of stuff. Now that you've got in it and you're still moving towards the goal of having your own colony, no ego involved in there, like, at all. This is my kingdom. I am the actual queen bee. Yes. What about it is still like speaking to you? Like, what confirmation do you have from like that first curiosity and feeling compelled to like open it up? Is it like you kind of went on like the risk side of things? It's like, so is it part of the risk? Is there like, what is it that's keeping you in it now that you've scratched the itch of curiosity a little bit? It sounds like
Yeah.
like you're in it, but like what's keeping you compelled?
I feel, don't get me wrong, there is plenty of fear I feel in my life, in so many areas of my life, but I do not feel any fear. I feel total at peace.
Yeah.
It's a very peaceful environment for me. And I think I love that. It feels so intrinsically intuitive as well. There's knowledge that you need for it, but there's an intuition. And I just love how peaceful it feels. Like, it feels really peaceful. There's no panic or fear or anxiety with it. The opposite happens with my whole nervous system when I'm with the bees. Like, they literally put me at ease. I just start relaxing. It's methodical because you're picking up these frames full of bees. You have to be methodical. You're trying to not kill any of the bees.
Yep.
So there's a methodicalness to it, but it feels really immersive and peaceful. And there's a few, I'm recognizing that feeling. And maybe I've recognized it stronger because I've been through some extreme mental stress that I recognize when my whole nervous system just feels at ease and goes quiet and peaceful. And you know me, I've got a monkey brain. It
Yeah.
jumps around everywhere. I'm a bit, frenetic in a lot of ways. I think I've got frenetic energy sometimes, most of the time, probably.
For sure. Oh, without a doubt. Yeah. We all love you.
That's hilarious. Spoken like a true friend.
That's right.
But no, it's just completely calms everything. I love it. I love the feeling of leaning into it. There was another time that I felt that in a big way as well. There's times that you feel that, I think, with different things, whatever your body needs to kind of feel relief and be consumed by something which is relaxing.
Yeah.
Not just escaping. Like, I think escapism is different to whatever stasis this puts you in. But the other time that I felt completely consumed and at ease and at peace was when I did Marco Polo you. We camped next to a reservoir which protected turtles. It was like a turtle bay.
In Turkey, right?
Turkey, yes.
Okay.
So it was hanging out with the turtle. And it was mating season, and my brother's a marine biologist, and he said you have to leave them alone. Like, let them do their thing. The mating part is really important. Do not try and swim next to them and chase them. But I was still curious, so I just sink down. And if you got to the bottom of the seabed, I mean, it wasn't deep. You just look around and you could see turtles mating. This sounds weird.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah.
I'm a turtle perv. Anyway, you'd just sit down and you'd sit there, but you'd also see turtles swimming around and stuff.
Yeah.
As long as I could sit there because I was only I wasn't on gas and air. I was just on a
Like a snorkeling tube or like whatever.
tube. Sorry, the word left me then.
Yep.
So I just sit there and just be calm and still and just watch the turtles around me, basically. And I just feel like I was a visitor to their world and just privileged to be there. But of course, it's underwater, so it's so peaceful. So peaceful. And you're in their world. And I feel like the bees feel like that. I'm in their world and I just give in to that as well.
Fascinating. I love that you have two examples of that because I think, if you wanted to, and this is where I love trying to make connections and how can you learn more about yourself or others in some of these things, right? So coming back to some of the things that you said before, it's funny that you find peace with lots of things going on, right? So bees are chaos, they're chaos. I'm not a bee person. It's chaos. What?
I know, there's an order to them.
Yeah, this is why we're different. Yeah, I love that you found it. Yeah. And then the turtles, less chaos. They're moving slower, but it's there was a lot going on still, and it included things outside of yourself. So kind of going back to community, a lot of things going on, and then that immersion comes back to and being in someone else's world. So the bees world, the turtles world, what do you it makes total sense why you love to write. That
Hmm.
you are immersing yourself into someone else's world. And the hard part there is like sometimes you have to create that world, right? And so it might be hard to disassociate your world from the one that you're trying to create and all the sorts of things.
This association isn't hard for me.
Yes.
I can do that.
I forgot who I was talking to. Just read your book on holiday for for a
Come on.
year.
Paisley, I'm
But what a cool connection. And I think it's wild to maybe not have had like those like epiphany moments or find like your version of beekeeping until like here we are like in our 40s. And it's like, man, what a cool thing to find. And not to be like hard on ourselves, but it's like, man, I wish I had like the equivalent of beekeeping. Like before I had this, crisis, or before I had like these different things happen. But often we need something to shake it up, to be able to appreciate more of like who we are, to have the time to even stop and have that curiosity and like those types of things. And out of some of these really hard times comes something so beautiful and so simple as beekeeping.
yeah.
And what does that look like? Not that it's simple. I think y'all
No,
are
but it's
beautifully nuts.
no, you've summed it up perfectly. And it's the cliche of the rat race, isn't it? And we did leave that rat race, our own version of that, and everyone has their own version of whatever that rat race is. It's not necessarily the kind of classic corporate rat race world, but everyone has their own version of what that is. It's the keeping up
Yeah.
with all the pressures and demands and the running around after everything and making sure all these balls that we're juggling stay in the air. Whatever that rat race is for someone, that's what I was in. That's what Anthony was in. That's what we were in completely. And you feel stuck because you feel like you can't put down one of those balls. And if you do, everything comes crashing down.
Mhm.
Well, our world did come crashing down. It happened. That happened.
Yeah.
So when that happens, in whatever way that happens for someone, whether it's a mental breakdown or something else,
Yeah.
you have, if you're going to survive, you have to find new tools to survive with
Mhm.
and new go-tos to survive with, I suppose. But you're right, I would never have found it, never have exposed myself to it naturally.
Yeah.
I literally came face to face with it and I felt the compulsion, and then I lent into that curiosity. And what I found now is this lovely escapism, dare I say it. Clearly, I'm someone who needs to escape.
I
Just,
think it sounds like a flow state, right? Like what's cool to hear you describe about it. I think escapism would be more along the lines of like you don't have to do anything, but
mm,
like you are an active participant in someone else's world for that,
right.
right? And I think it's the same with your writing and things like that. But it's if you were, you know, only watching videos on how to do it, but weren't getting your hands dirty with it, I think that would be like the version of like escapism. And so I
Yeah.
think this, with being an active participant, really is it's the simple things. And this makes me feel really old, like even saying it, but it's like what you're describing. Like I feel just by finding like breath work, and it's like nothing crazy. It's like, can I focus on a thing and be an active participant while letting things just happen? Right.
Oh, yes, that resonates.
Yeah.
That resonates. Yes.
And
Letting things
so,
happen.
yeah. And you can't control the bees, right?
No.
And so there is this like surrender, but I also love that you brought back the like there's mechanics to it, right? It's like, hey, like there's each individual like hive, like there's things that you can control, but you have no control. Like you couldn't control a bee even if you wanted to.
Yeah.
Um, or like
Yeah.
there's tricks, like I know that there's like the smoke and things like that, but ultimately you are you're a participant for a short time in in that world, which is awesome.
I think when you said you surrender to it, I think that is, I think that is potentially what I get from it as well, is the surrender part to it. And I am someone who's held tight to things, and whatever reason, my psychology will hold tight to things. But I have found the reprieve and the relief in surrendering. Now, I've learned that lesson on some level, but you don't learn it across every part of your life, and you're still confronted every day with something new that flags up something. But yeah, it's definitely present. It's the surrender into that environment, which I think is really good. Yes. Yeah. Which you know about, because that's what you did on your Moab trail, isn't it? Surrender to it.
There's a lot of surrender and a lot of hallucinations and a lot of like all sorts of fun stuff. But it's interesting because similar, I mean, in a very different way, but I got into ultra running, you know, on the back end of my own life mix up and things like that with the divorce. And it is interesting, like the lessons that you learn. And even with Moab, I resonated with your caravan trip, where it's like I couldn't see like ahead of me, or there wasn't like this unknown, and the gravity of like the length of Moab. It was like, man, I just got to focus on the next aid station or the next thing. And then there was also so many times, like even just taking a break on the side of the trail or a dirt nap or any of those things, similar to what you guys had to do, is like sometimes the hardest part was like just to start again. And so it was like that one foot in front of the other, or, okay, we just need to make it to the next location, or what's the next barrier that you got to break down to be able to do that. So when you're doing paperwork and all that sort of stuff, am I going to be able to get out of this country, let alone get in? Like those types of things where it's like when I'm on the trail, it's like, hey, my car's back there. Like, so with all the training, it's like, I didn't have a choice. It was like, how far am I going to go? I got to get back. Something's going to go wrong, which I sound a little bit like a sadist. Like that's one of the things that I love about it. It's like something will go wrong. Like you can't run for that distance and have it go perfectly. It's impossible.
Okay, that's
And
interesting.
so how do you react when something happens? And what does that look like?
Huh. And that's an interesting mental component tool to have.
Is it healthy? I don't know.
Well, is it not being a realist though as well?
I hadn't
Because
thought about it that way.
the beginning of the travels, plenty went wrong, but my psychology fought it and would get frustrated every time, and would be like, you know, that kind of childlike tantrum almost of like, oh, why isn't things going right? Oh, this shouldn't be happening. Like when you've already kind of like lost a house, you then think everything should go right from that point on, which is just, I mean, fairyland. It's not real.
Yes.
Actually, on Sunday, this might be a little bit of an arc of where I've come. This
I
is
love
like
it.
going from kicking the van to, I'm so frustrated, to our car broke down. I was driving the car back from beekeeping on Sunday, and it broke down 20 minutes from where we live, completely just on the road, just stopped dead. Which I was like, oh, great, another thing to pay for that we can't afford. But I looked, because I'd been following a map, I had no signal, but I looked on the map that was kind of already loaded, and I was a 10-minute walk from a country pub. So I walked there, left the car, walked there, got signal, phoned Anthony. He came and got me. It was going to be hours until the AA came to tow the car home. So we pub roast in the country. There are worse places to break down, it turns out. We were 10 minutes from a country pub. We had a full roast dinner and enjoyed each other's company. And we would not have done that had that not happened. And then I think that's what the change is that you start going, we broke down, but look where we broke down. How nice is this?
Yeah.
And I think that's the difference, is that, yes, problems are still going to come, but there will be something positive in that. Like, or you look for it for your own, because you can choose life. You choose to moan, choose to go, do you know what? We're in a country pub. Let's have the full roast. Let's have the schedule. Bring them.
That's so beautiful. And what a great, simple articulation of how far you two have come like not only as individuals, but as a couple, and what that looks like to, to handle that situation in a
Mm.
beautiful way, and still sit in vulnerability, but enjoy good food. Like that's
Food. See,
yeah.
now is if you take away good food, I would struggle in life. That would be my Achilles heel. But if there's
Yeah.
good food involved, then we can get through anything, I think.
Oh man, I love
And the
that.
kids as well, the kids have expanded in so many ways they don't even know they have. They'll encounter change in their life now, and they've got something in their arsenal that they can fall on to know that change is fine.
Oh yeah.
Just
That's
won't go in the same way.
yeah,
It's we can adjust. We can do this.
totally. Yeah, and I'm sure that there were so many moments on that trip where you're like, I'm messing my kids up. They're never gonna recover. Like this is trauma at its finest with a capital T.
Yeah.
They're gonna pay someone a lot of money to unpack like what's happening right now. But the reality is, like, they're so resilient, they're so beautiful. And was it absent of hard times for them? Absolutely not. But to your
Mm,
point, they, you and them will not know the benefits of this for years.
mm.
Like, there's these bright spots, like your car breaking down. I'm sure that you've already seen, there's probably a handful of examples with the kids. But man, I can't wait for you to have your own campfire conversation with the kids when they're older. They're sharing stories about, man, I navigated this and I thought it related to turkey or to like whatever. And that absolutely will happen. And I can't wait to hear about it. It's going to be awesome.
But you can resonate with that, I'm sure, with your own experience with your children, I'm sure.
Oh man, like there were so many preconceived like societal things about like divorce with kids
Mm.
that was just like that was the most scary piece of it. And none of it has turned out to be like true. And so it not that things are easy, like by any stretch of the imagination, right? Like there's still tough times, but it's like, man, if you are able to show up and know who you are and try to get to know who they are, it's wild, like how you can still build a life. And then similar to what you were talking about with the expectations of like living in the city and like all those sorts of things, one of the biggest fears that I had was like, oh man, I'm only a dad 50% of the time, which is its own lie. Like I'm still 100% dad, right? But to have the awareness of like how I'm spending time, and is it quality versus just quantity, and those types of mindset shifts have been some of the greatest gifts where, man, I want to make sure that I'm capitalizing on quality. And am I not just like being present versus like actually engaged? So it's different, like being in the room versus like, okay, are we actually engaging with each other, and what does that look like? And so something that felt like the world had imploded has given like some of the greatest gifts in being a parent or an adult or whatever, like in an insane way. It's crazy. And it's also weird to have gratitude for like a divorce without being shitty, right? It's not like, oh, like cool, like that's great, or like whatever. It's like, oh man, it's hard that it happened, but also so thankful for some of the awakening and other things.
I think you just arced this. She's pegged with this statement. This is our final statement.
I love it.
Feeling like, even when the world feels like it implodes, and yet there is good stuff that comes from it. I think that's exactly, I think that's a universal feeling as well. And also, I saw you through that, so I remember you sharing some of those fears early days,
Yeah.
how you were going to be a dad and what you felt like you were losing, and you were concentrating on what you were losing And actually what you've just shared there is things that you've gained out of it as well, like a whole new perspective of time and making it quality and making it capitalizing on it. And you've got a different mindset towards time with your children, with living in the same house as them 24/7, probably don't have. And so it's so interesting because you focus on what you lose first, and then you go, oh, wait, look how much I've gained. Because I was doing the same thing. My journey, I was still focusing on what I'd lost. Yeah, I was in the most incredible situations, having the most amazing experiences with my own children. But I was looking back at the life I'd lost rather than the life I'm having now. And the things that it's reaping and the experience that it's reaping and the fears were playing out. I've pulled my kids out of mainstream education. What does this mean for them? What does it mean for their future? Have I ruined them in these ways and stuff? And it turns out, no, because if you love kids, you typically don't ruin them.
There's a great statement. Yep.
You know, you're not going to be perfect, and you'll give them something to, you know, be more feet on the ground with later on in life. But, you know, yeah, give them the right amount of dysfunction and love.
I love that. And what a great example of like, don't assess after day one.
Don't assess after day one, no.
And so I definitely called you on plenty of day ones. It's happening. Oh my gosh. So, well, my friends, this was an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for supporting me and hopping on to tell your story. And always a pleasure to catch up. And I just love the hell out of you. And
thanks for having me.
No. All right, friends. Well, until next time, we'll catch up. We'll be good.
Perfect.